Hello, my homies. Flag was Whippo played, of course, Singed against Team Liquid. I wanted to break down the how and the why. Something to be in the loop about in terms of recent changes for Singed. I think the main thing that stands out, of course, is the fact that now Grand Singed minion kill credit of an affected minion would die to minion damage within the time for the next damage instance. So basically, in the past, what would happen often for Singed players is that they would just lose minions due to just bad RNG. So that's something that's fixed, and that's something that has improved Singed win ratio by a lot. A very, very big quality of life change. They had to nerf Singe a couple of times in terms of this Noxious Slipstream, the passive cooldown, the bonus stats reduce as well. But in the end, Singe just stands tall. They fixed the Noxious Slipstream cooldown back to 8 because this was something that was very, very tough. Because in terms of Singe play pattern, it's very important that he can dart in and out of fights. And this, of course, the 8-second cooldown matched a little bit more his fling cooldown. And the whole play pattern is darting in and out of fights because you aren't super, super bulky. In the mid game you are, but then later, of course, in the game you aren't. In terms of how you can use Slipstream, for those who don't, of course, know, this is, of course, a Formula One term, Noxious Slipstream. The main thing is that this is something that can stack, in terms of you launching yourself to the enemy, walking through 5 of your teammates to get the slipstream, to get the move speed, and then to just engage is something that you can do. We won't see it in this Whippo game, but I have this example of how fast a Singe can be if he high fives enough just enough champions. Take a look at this. Here he's walking in with Ghost, and then boom, with the high five, you see it's the marking. His move speed just becomes absolutely ridiculous. The play pattern is simple. You can just dart in, out, and if you want to launch yourself into the enemy team, you just tell your team, let me get that slipstream, and then boom, like Oscar Piastri, you're going to just, seal the deal. Nevertheless, Singe, in terms of his solo queue performance, is absolutely monstrous. You see that his win rate is 55%. In terms of, we're looking at maybe a bigger sample size, still, Singe is really, really performing super, super well. You see Diamond Plus, the win ratio remains somewhat similar. In terms of the matchup that, of course, Bwipo played, the main thing that he played against was, of course, the Gwen, which was his lane opponent. In terms of the interaction against Gwen, obviously you can flip her out of her W. If she exits her W, it breaks earlier, which is super cool. She also has a dash built into the kit, and she can't really punish super hard, the Singe if he wants to push or he wants to proxy. Gwen can only really, really farm, and Singe always makes the decisions in terms of the trades because chasing after is something that is difficult, and your all-ins on R, if he just pops Insanity Potion and uses the Slipstream, is very easy for him to get away because he can deny your all-in with the glue, with the E, and so forth. In addition to detail in terms of what Singe does super well in is, of course, here a couple of dash champions. Ezreal is one that stands out in particular because Singe gets so much bonus stats from his ultimate, armor and MR, so he becomes insanely bulky in the mid game because there is no penetration in this period. And that is where Ezreal spikes the hardest too. He has his Trinity Force and Mana Mune, and he's not going to be able to break down, of course, a Singed. At the same time, Ezreal move speed is very, very low. All of his mobility relies, of course, on his dash, and Singed can just stick onto you. It's like he can force your dash with the W, and then he can just run after you, chase after you, because of the inbuilt move speed, of course, of the champion and the Insanity Potion and the Slipstream, as I mentioned before. So Ezreal hates to play against it. The same way with the Zeri, who is, dash reliant, and of course Kalista, I don't even need to talk about. But Ezreal is something that stands out as Singed. If you're picking it into a Gwen or a tank and you want to get even more value from the champion, low damage DPS is very, very good for Singe because he likes those long, drawn out fights. Other OTPs, in terms of OTPs, this is a EUS OTP. He likes to play Conqueror. This is something that's more frequent. Still, the Liandry rush that Whippo did too is something that is most occurring. Liandry, Rylai is the core. You buy AP to, of course, make use of the bulky stats that you get from your R. Otherwise, you're not a threat. You're just a buffoon that flips people. The same thing here in Korea. There is a OTP here that plays a lot of Singed. You still have the Nimbus Cloak and the Conqueror. The crucial detail, of course, for Pro is that in terms of playing Spellbook, it gives you access to, of course, TP, which is super crucial. And the TP just allows you to follow the beats of the game. Because if you're playing Ignite Dry, it means then that, Any swap scenario where the enemy gets tempo and TPs against you, and you're playing a 1v2 and you have a wrong lane assignment, it's going to be way too costly in the current meta game of things, because as you know, all those swaps that come in at 4 minutes, they're all built around TP. It's like both bot laners go top, because in case the enemy top laner TPs bot and pushes the wave that you are on, which is the cannon wave, that's why the base comes in on the cannon wave. If the enemy top laner TPs on that wave and pushes it, your tempo is going to just be screwed. Best thing you can do is freeze, but then the top laner can just base and open top and dive your guy as they're slow pushing that big wave into him. And, there's a lot of pain points with doing that. And if you manage to push that wave on time and it crashes, then in a lot of cases, you're just in big trouble. That's why we always get these, agreed upon lane swaps that occur in the game. Well, let's take a look at the gameplay portion. So, in terms of the gameplay, very simple for the matchup. What you need to know is that Whippo is going to just look to pre-queue the wave. He's going to tap it, untap it to just save mana, and he's going to look to poison the wave as much as possible and to just maintain prio, to then, of course, find a situation where he reaches level 2 first. Here he pushes maybe even too fast because the wave crashes, and Impact could have maybe held this wave a little bit longer, but at the same time, Impact is level 1 and already lost a lot of HP, so pulling that wave is very difficult because 6 minions. So this, of course, works out for Whippo. Here he begins to push the next wave, and here you can make a decision. If you already won level 2 and Impact is in this danger, you can look to slow push this wave with the next one and then crash. But it seems like he wants to be in tune with what Inspired's game plan is, which is, of course, to invade the blue buff. So here he drops a ward very early because he just spotted the chickens being taken, but he wards early because he doesn't want to ward later. This is something that you can do in the window that you do. It's not necessarily because you expect Vi to come now. It's more about, like, I might be busy later, so I'm going to drop the ward now, and it will cover the Vi window. So here, Impact made a mistake, and I think that Whippo steps a little bit far forward. But it's okay because Impact gets 2 autos. He's still ahead on HP, so not that big of a deal. Whippo has bomb plating, so he walked up on Impact in that moment. Impact doesn't get the reset on E, and Whippo crashes the wave. He threatens Impact, so he can't look to pull it or freeze it. Here still, he wants to be in tune with what Inspired does, so he just keeps pushing and keeps pushing. Inspired fighting here and playing off of information beautifully because Ziggs hovered him, and he just spaced him very, very nicely. I just want to highlight this too. It's not Sindri related, but still a very, very nice presence of mind here from Inspired, that he looks to fight the Vi, he gets the smite off, and he's ahead. And then here, Inspired's incentive is that he just wants to create as much time, a time vacuum as much as possible for Juji, because he doesn't have smite. So he's just dragging this out. He's looking to harass, and he sees Ziggs is hovering, and Talia is just pushing. So he's not thinking about moving here so fast. Inspired is pulling in the opposite direction, because if Ziggs wants to commit all the way to pushing him out, and he just flashes out, Ziggs is going to lose all of this, and his lane is going to be over. Inspired has great presence of mind, pushes out Juji, and just keeps harassing him, never goes for the full commit on the blue, because he's waiting for his smite CD. So Singed here, as mentioned before, he keeps pushing and now channels his recall. He knows he can TP to this ward, so he's calling Inspired that no problem, backup is going to arrive. And as you can see, Inspired's smite cooldown is back up. Inspired kites away from APA. Really, really well done by Inspired. This is like canyon level shit, in terms of being in sync with all the lanes and paying attention and making sure that they waste time. Like, not being afraid. It's like, oh, Ziggs is coming, I need to run, and just bolting it. No, he's like tethering himself to the Ziggs movement. And now Whippo comes in, and a fight commences. And this, of course, is massive, because Whippo has a Ruby Crystal advantage, Amptom advantage, because he had Perma Pry against the Gwen. Gwen is participating in this fight because they don't want to give up all the camps. Ziggs gets a shit ton of value here off of his abilities. But as you can see, Bwipo here, he's just getting slipstream value. It looks like he's ghosted, and he's just applying as much damage as possible with, of course, his poison. And then in the end, off of that Talia Q, he's going to be able to stick to APA, who flashed for the kill here, and Whippo gets a beautiful triple kill. He instantly channels recall because he knows that this wave is even, and he needs to be ready for the decision of the Gwen. As I mentioned before, Gwen is going to look to potentially TP here to fuck with the tempo of Busio and Masu. And Busio and Masu then need to, of course, base and then go into topside. Because Gwen comes out fresh and she wins the lane against Jhin and of course, the Bard. So they need to recall. So they are really, really off-tempo, and they need to match, of course, the Ezreal that is walking right now. And in the same vein, Singed, just because he TP'd into the top 5, is now walking down bot to match the Gwen. So something that you're going to see often in the play pattern of Singed, I think for any top laner out there, it's very important to understand when you're strong. I mentioned already, Singed spikes the hardest between 15, 25 minutes, 2 items, 1 item, super strong, because the armor and the MR that he gets from the, the potion, the ultimate, is so much. And this is where nobody can kill him. And making sure that you participate in fights, you want to look to proxy, you want to look to push, you want to not necessarily focus on trying to get like chip damage on the Gwen. You want to focus on making sure that you are pushing in, you are maybe proxying if you have the opportunity to do so, and then cross into mid. This way, everyone's enjoying your power and you put yourself in winning positions. Too many times people get their items and they never participate in fights. You want to fight, you want to farm when you're weak and fight when you're strong. And if you go back to farming, in this moment we have the Leandris, he TP's on the wave for the temple, he knows that Gwen needs a base because of the mana, he pushes the wave, of course, and gets another cancellation. And you're going to see here Bwipo is going to just push the next wave, and he's going, of course, after the Drake, he's going to cross into fight because he's calling right now, I have Leandri, I'm OP, I'm the president of the game, put me in a fight right now, baby. And he just pops, of course, the Insanity Potion. He pops the Ghost that he picked up. Not a very successful fight, but you guys get the gist of the idea, Yeah, Bwipo's main mistake is that he should have just caught this wave that is coming and accepted the recall. But I think he misjudged Gwen's TP cooldown because maybe he thought about it the same way as his own. And here Gwen TP's back. He doesn't, he just goes for the wave and he tries to fight for it even though he has no ult and impact. Of course, gets the punish in. Whippo has TP, but it's a little... Flash could have maybe flashed away after the flip. But he just waited a little bit too long. So Whippo, plain and simple, should have just based after the wave he caught. He just wanted a little bit more, which of course is very, very greedy. So you guys now understand the play pattern. It's all about pushing the waves and then participating in the fights. Paying attention to jungle information when when your team gets it. You could consider this a good death of some sort because Ziggs gets owned off and he did get the wave. That's also the beauty of Singed. It's as bows-pilled as possible, the gameplay. Just keep pushing the waves, proxy if you can, and then hover into mid-wave with your tempo and your prio. And make sure that you get your farm. Super important to get the farm because if Singed ever falls off the curve, he becomes insanely useless. He's a stat checker. He's basically a walking block of stats. And if those stats are enough, he wins. If they're not enough, he just doesn't do anything. Of course, he can flip and flank, but that becomes a little bit more difficult. Let's take a look at some of these fight scenes from Whippo. What does he do in the fighting scene? There's a full-out breakout fight here that he's going to go for because that's the same thing. Whippo's the type of guy. He says, I have 2 items. Any fight is winning. He's going to look to get the flip in into the root, which is beautifully timed. If you flip somebody into your glue, they get rooted, which is super nice. But here Ziggs can TP and Alistar is already wrestling with Quad, so Quad doesn't feel comfortable matching the CP. And I have to say, I love Inspired. I think he's a great jungler, one of the best junglers in the world. But here he plays like a complete bot. As you can see here, Gwen's gonna W and he just stands still for a solid second, which is crazy. And then he walks out here, doesn't cancel the YQ with his R. He's completely asleep. I'm not so sure what he's doing here. He gets comboed and then ulted, and he didn't even do an action yet. The first action he does is the ult here after auto, but it's a little bit too late. And of course, Team Liquid is outnumbered. But from the Singed side, he did a lot of damage here. This damage he did all on his own. Singed practically, Zinza practically did nothing, as you saw yourselves. Let's go a little bit deeper into the game. Here is a flaw of Singed. Once again, there's so much gold in the game. If Singed is not ahead of the curve in the game, not only against his opponent, if he's not ahead of the curve of the opponent, then he becomes super weak. So if it's a very volatile game where Ziggs is ahead for some reason, and you've traded gold or whatever, then his tankiness once again becomes very, very irrelevant. In this fight here, Zinza is going to trade 1-for-1 with the Gwen. Busio is going to land a beautiful... well, honestly, it wasn't that beautiful. I don't know what Impact is doing. He's just walking into the golden shower. He really wanted it. Inspired gets they get the bullet in the end. Juji didn't defend his boy because of the ult flipping and positioning him in a bad spot, so he couldn't block the bullet. But here we can see a moment where Bwipo, even though quite strong, 15, 2.5 items, if the enemy team is ahead of the curve and he's not the fattest target, fattest member or even member in the game at this point in time, he is not going to be able to provide super much. So he wants to dart in and out. He wants to use the slipstream. Here Bwipo could have maybe tagged his teammates before darting back in. Could have been nice. Here you see the Q flash is beautiful from Code JJ on the turn. And he gets a flip on Ezreal in the end. But as you can see, he kind of melted, even though he has quite good stats. Which is, you know, in the end, the crucial detail is just that there's too much gold in the game. You know, he might have 10k gold, but then if the enemy AD has 10k gold, the jungle has 10k gold, and he has 13,000 gold on Ziggs, you know, his bonus stats are no longer relevant, you know? It's the same way you could think of, like, everyone talks about Ornn passive. It's like, Ornn passive is great, but if the enemy team is ahead, you know, 5k gold, Ornn passive in some cases is not going to save you because it's just more stats. In the end, you know, the impact of those stats is depending on champions or whatever, but this becomes a little bit too philosophical, a little bit too quick. So let's move on to the next fight. Here's another moment here with Whippo is just positioned topside. He has Flash and Ghost and level 16. This is probably like as strong as Whippo will ever be in the game. With the double summoners, Ghost is something that you can't pick that frequently, of course, with Spellbook. So when you have it, you want to really use it. This is Flyquist with a defensive posturing, with Masu looking to recall now, and they are stepping forward. Whippo's calling that really wants to fight this because he sees that the enemy is on vision. Ziggs has now crossed this bush, and Whippo knows, and he's now in position to flip. And he punishes Team Liquid's over posturing here super hard. He gets a flip on Ziggy. I don't know why Ziggy didn't expect the flash over the wall. Ziggy, of course, mispositioned. He should be here into bottom side together with his bros. And then somebody should be on this top wave. There's no reason for him to ever be in this bush. This is very, very dangerous if the enemy is under defensive posturing. But here, Bwipo's having a good time. He's very sticky. He just killed the Ziggs with the flip. Super nice. As you can see, Yeon got grounded there, so he couldn't E, which is also very nice, a very powerful part of Whippo. And there you have it. They try to look for the end, but it doesn't really work out because Vi is alive and she can smite the cannon. Maybe in a world where they look to maybe kill the Vi, it could help. I'm not so sure. Whippo is looking to, of course, cancel the home guard of the Ziggs, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think cancelling the home guard of Ziggs matters because he's going to just ult the wave either way. So I think if you want to look to end, the best bet is to try to push the Vi off. But in all honesty, I think this is just a bad end angle. Ziggs spawns too soon. JJ is alive. They can knock away the cannon. It's very easy for them to just clear this wave and hold on. The best hope, I think, is to threaten the end and then hope that you get to kill the Vi. And then you extend the Vi kill into a Nasher because of course, the spawn time that is 0.55. And then that could be a cool way to do it. But I think that such a call is quite complicated, and obviously Flyquist is calling for end, but I don't think they could have done it. So now the game becomes very, very sticky and murky. Flyquist, after losing Nash and getting aced, they are forced to defend. This is one of those moments where I can once again highlight the weakness of Singed, is that even though he feels really OP because he was fed in the earlier game and he says Insanity Potion on, and he gets 200 armor and MR when he activates it, you can see here that he's not as tanky as he believes to be. Juji here is just channeling Q onto him. He might be bulky. He sees the fight commencing, so he wants to pull the Vi into him. But what happens is that he practically just gets one-tapped. Maybe there was a frame where he could have hourglassed here between the Q and the R. But either way, you know, this is just, you know, at this point, Singed is no longer the carry. He's not the one who carried the boats. He needs to find flanks and, you know, surprise the enemy. He can't go through the front door. He is not super bulky at all. Here we have a moment where we can comment on APA's play. He just recalls in a very, very terrible spot. He even gets a warning shot from Masu where he says, yo, you're recalling on a ward, brother. And still, APA tries to stick the landing, and he just keeps recalling, moves 1 square meter as if for some reason they only had vision in that little pocket. And then the Masu ult comes through. And like a hero that Busio is, he is going to chase him with all that is holy. He's going to look to portal through, and he gets contact with APA, finds the lethal, gets the Q flash and the auto, and Flyquist played this beautifully to buy enough time for, of course, Singed to spawn and to TP in. Quad takes the portal to try to cut them off because Flyquist are on a clear mission here. All they want to do is keep these guys in the fight for as long as possible. Juji completely misplaced too, and Team Liquid are now stuck between a rock and a hard Masu. Well, that came out wrong. Masu. Rock and Masu. Masu dies for the cause. Gwen flashes, Alistair flashes. No worries because his bros are going to look to punish. And beautifully, Busio is going to have ult back on. He lands onto Ezreal while Singed kills the Gwen. And they get the triple. Very, very nice. They get to live another day, still super minions, and everybody needs to spawn. The very, very final fight of the game is this beautiful maneuver from, of course, Whippo, where he is spotted on a pink that he clears here, and then he walks and undermines. And then the timing engaged from FlyQuest here together with Quad is super nice. So Team Liquid, what you want to do with, of course, Singe at this point in the game is that you don't want to show on the mid wave. You want to undermine the enemy. Always come from these angles where you can enter through these pockets here. This pocket, this pocket. You want to always undermine the enemy that is trying to posture on, of course, the neutral wave. And like that, you will always come from beautiful angles. And if the enemy, if your team is aware of your, like the Bard is aware, Talia is aware, they can time your engage together with your team. Eon now, Ziggs and Ezreal, if they don't get to play front to back and a Singe is disrupting them, it's of course super, super difficult. You have Talia ult, you have Jhin ult, bullets also flying. And then, of course, Whippo latches onto the Ezreal. And as you can see, he just sticks around in the fight. Hourglass has the Vi ultimate, and Team Liquid have nothing to offer. So to summarize, early game, push, 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 be as annoying as possible, harass. If you're playing in SoloQ, you can play Ignite to find cooler lethal ranges, which is perfectly fine. You can play with Conqueror to find cooler lethal ranges and so forth. Whip was playing Spellbook specifically, or, of course, competitive, but in SoloQ it can work too. Buy AP, leverage your spikes, proxy, and undermine the enemy on mid. Participate in the game when you are strong, which is something that is true for every top lane. Everyone's playing top lane and they think they're an island. They kill enemy top lane 4 times, and then they, instead of transferring that pressure, they're like, I need to get every farm, give up a wave to participate in a fight that is going to win the game. Usually, there's 2-3 game-winning fights. Make sure that you show up for them. If you didn't as a strong top laner, you have failed in the game. So understand the psychology of your teammates and the enemy. Understand the warfare that is going to commence. Be ready for them and understand when it's time to farm. Understand when it's time to fight. Singed really, really cements that concept, especially with Spellbook. When he reaches level 11, has 1 item, 2 items, he wants to fight. When he uses Spellbook, has Flash and Ghost, he wants to fight. These are very big spikes and timers that he should always look to leverage. And this is something that Whippo, of course, did in the game. And if you somehow go into deep late game, make sure that you find those beautiful flanks. And something that Whippo didn't do in this game, he didn't really enjoy the slipstream super much. And that's something that you can also, of course, utilize together with your teammates to just make you zoom off. A final thing that I wanted to show everybody, as I just mute this master volume, is just that the last time I remember Whippo played Singe was a beautiful moment where Top Esports, of course, played against Fnatic. They started the series beautifully. There was a lot of cool highlights in this game that I can showcase where, for example, we had this beautiful move from Reckless where he just does this predict against the Ezreal, which is super nice. I'll just let it play. Ender cast and quick shot. It throws you back. Reckless with the ultimate. He's kiting back. Long fight. Nemesis on the Galio. And then the prediction. Just in case you missed it, look at the W prediction. Boom! On the dash. Ooh. And the reason I'm showing this is because Bwipo, in this particular game, with the info that he had on this side of the map, is proxy. He's proxying. Proxying is super, super powerful. Bwipo does it, Baus does it. It's very, very powerful because it basically removes the concept of turrets. In the previous video with BB and some reviews that I did, I mentioned how turrets kind of impact how fast you can move. If you are pushing waves at this position, you can undermine the enemy and you create such a big tempo window to either base or to impact the map. You can base, go bot, and still maybe be on time for the top wave. You can step into mid and then go into the top wave. Pushing this deep wave is extremely powerful and it really lane locks your opponent. That's what you want to do with Singed. Lane lock him. If he's trying to brawl with you, you bring Ignite and you fight back, and of course you do so. But then when he is no longer interacting with you and you get to push deep, and sure, you can look to harass him under the turret with some flips and look to get some more solo kills if you're not ready to fight. But when you're ready to fight and you have the right items to break the enemy team, make sure you show up. In this particular game, we had some other cool moments. Some Jackie Love classics, if you want to call him that. Here we have a TP angle from, of course, the Whipmeister. He wants to undermine the enemy. Here they're trying to collapse on him. He still has Hourglass. He gets the Galio ultimate. And then in the end, he's kiting. He's kiting. Doesn't want to face check into enemy. Gets the flash flip on Casa. Beautiful. And then he kites back. Another beautiful situation here. This one. You know, those memes about Jakilov. I try to defend him when I can, because I don't think that the memes complete him as a player. But so those memes are there for a reason. Look at his E forward. The glue gets thrown from Bwipo out of Fog of War. He wants to attack Jakilov, but Jakilov E's forward. Doesn't expect this, you know, singed in the bush. But it is funny now to think back that this pixel no longer exists. Like, the game is just completely different. And then the final fight that I just wanted to highlight is just Hilisang and his mastermind. Hilisang undermines Jakilov. This is something you can do with Singed. I know he's doing it with Rakan, but you can do this with anybody. When they don't have that mid turret, look to undermine them and cut through and break them. And that is all she wrote. That is all she wrote. In this particular game, just as in Modern League of Legends, Singed is such a powerful pick because the enemy has very low damage. Ezreal, Zoe, very low damage. Whippo can easily dart in and out. If Singed gets off 2-3 flips in the same fight, usually he's dominating that fight. That is usually like the metric that any champion is judged by, how many rotations or spells they can do. But Singed, if he can't get bursted or can't get DPS down by strong ADCs and strong mid laners, then he's super, super strong. And that's something that we saw in the previous game, like the Ezreal, Ziggs, and a matchup that Singed can play in. The best signal to pick Singed. Singed comes with a lot of risk because he becomes very useless if he doesn't succeed. But I do think it's a champion that is worthy of more exploration. So I'm super, super happy to see people look at him. If you like this video, leave a like, follow, subscribe, do whatever it is. Either way, if you made it to this part of the video, I'm super happy already. Let me know if there's any game you want me to review. I'm going to be more consistent, and I'm going to try to upload one of these every single day because there's a lot of interesting League of Legends that deserves to be covered, and I think there is a lack of content like this. So let me know what you think. I wish you guys all the best, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.